A couple weeks ago I asked you guys what the most overrated items in Terraria are, so today we're going to be looking over what you guys said and determining whether those items are worth using or not. If you want to become a part of videos like this in the future or you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe so that we can reach 30k. And with that said, let's get started. The Ankh Shield. The Ankh Shield is a very late game Terraria item and it takes a lot of stuff to craft. This is possibly the hardest item to craft in the entire game. Because of that, it should also be one of the best items in the entire game, and I would say that it really isn't. What the Ankh Shield does is it gives you immunity to 12 different debuffs like bleeding and poisoned and chilled. That is useful, so it's not a completely terrible accessory, but it definitely doesn't make up for how long it takes to obtain. By the time you get the Ankh Shield, you're pretty late into your Terraria playthrough and you have no need to avoid debuffs like burning or slowness. I used to consider this one of my favorite accessories in Terraria, and even a few months ago I said that it's probably one of the best. With more experience in the game, however, I would say that while it's not a terrible accessory, it's definitely not worth it in your average playthrough. The Daedalus Stormbow. As I'm sure we all know by now, the Daedalus Stormbow has a 1 in 4 chance of being dropped by hallowed mimics, and what it does is it rains down arrows onto the enemy. This used to be considered one of, if not Terraria's best weapon overall, but since then it has been nerfed, and because of that, a lot of players say that it's overrated. Another big issue with the Daedalus Stormbow is that it's literally useless underground. It's not just a little bit worse or does worse damage or is less accurate, I mean it literally doesn't work. This means that if you're trying to get good stuff underground, then you can't rely on the Daedalus Stormbow as your primary weapon, and that is definitely a big downside. With all that being said, I still think the Daedalus Stormbow is fantastic for the mechanical bosses, and overall can be very good in early hard mode. It's also a decently easy weapon to obtain, because I would say that out of the 3 main mimics in Terraria, the Hallowed Mimic is the easiest one to fight and beat. So while the Daedalus Stormbow definitely isn't the GOAT like it used to be, I would still say that in many playthroughs, it's worth it. The True Knight's Edge. I view the True Knight's Edge a lot like the Daedalus Stormbow. It's a weapon that used to be dominant and nowadays is still okay, but definitely isn't the best. The old projectile for the True Knight's Edge was so much easier to use, and in my opinion looked a lot cooler. The modern True Knight's Edge has a very delayed feeling projectile, and you can't really tell by watching a video, but if you've ever played the game and used the True Knight's Edge, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very slow projectile, and it's very difficult to aim with compared to most projectiles in Terraria. With that being said, that doesn't mean you can't get used to it and use this weapon to its full power, and in that case, the True Knight's Edge objectively still does great damage, especially because this weapon is often used to fight Plantera, where you have to stay away and use a projectile anyway. It's a much better option than the True Excalibur. I also usually hate to include crafting when judging items in videos like this, but it is important to bring up that the True Knight's Edge is a major crafting component in the Terra Blade, which is one of Terraria's best weapons. I would undoubtedly go for the True Excalibur over the True Knight's Edge in the vast majority of my playthroughs, but we gotta be fair and unbiased, and in that case, the True Knight's Edge is definitely worth it. The Demon Scythe. The Demon Scythe is a pre-hard mode magic weapon with a 1 in 35 chance of being dropped by demons in the Hell biome. The Demon Scythe does fantastic damage, and it's arguably Terraria's best pre-hard mode magic weapon in general. I guess somebody could call it overrated because there are other weapons which do just as good, if not better, damage in pre-hard mode, but you also have to consider why somebody would get the Demon Scythe. In higher difficulties like Master Mode, the Gem Staffs simply are not going to cut it when you're playing with the Mage class, and in that case you need to go down to the Underworld and get a Demon Scythe. It's pretty much your only option in that situation, and because of that it actually provides a lot of value to a lot of players. The Demon Scythe definitely isn't my favorite weapon in Terraria to use, but it is worth it.
The Slime Staff.
The Slime Staff can be dropped by quite a few enemies, but most of them have absurd drop rates. For example, the regular slime has a 1 in 10,000 chance of dropping a Slime Staff. This weapon should be very good considering how rare it is, and grinding for it can be really frustrating. So is it really good? Well, not really. It's definitely not a terrible weapon, and you shouldn't avoid using it if you obtain it early in the game, but there are much better options later in pre-hard mode, and by the time you get the Slime Staff, it's probably not going to be very good. The Slime Staff is not an egregiously bad weapon if you get it at the right time, but 9 out of 10 times, it's not even going to end up in your inventory at all. This weapon is not worth it. The Terra Spark Boots. The Terra Spark Boots are a combination of pretty much every single good boot in Terraria, and for many players, they're considered the ultimate boot accessory in the game. The crafting tree for this thing is absurd, and in many cases can take hours if not dozens of hours worth of grinding. With that being said, it is definitely a useful item. You're able to walk across every liquid in the game, you can sprint just like any other thing, you have immunity to all burning debuffs, you're immune to lava for 7 seconds, and there are a bunch of other small benefits. I'm very mixed on the Terra Spark boots, because I think in a regular playthrough I would never go for them, but if I was doing a longer playthrough, it's basically tradition mission that you have to get this item. It objectively provides a lot of benefits, but I will say that compared to something normal like the Hermes boots, the TerraSpark boots really don't make that big of a difference once you enter hard mode. Because of that, I am gonna say that while I do get the TerraSpark boots in many of my playthroughs, I think for most players it is not worth it. The Rod of Discord. The Rod of Discord has a 1 in 400 chance of being dropped by Chaos Elementals in the Underground Hollow. We all know how this item works. You click somewhere and you teleport there instantly. The Rod of Discord can be simply incredible for many reasons. A 1 in 400 drop chance does seem kind of insane, but compared to a lot of items in Terraria, I wouldn't even say that's that crazy considering that Chaos Elementals spawn a lot. In a lot of my playthroughs, it honestly doesn't take me too long to get the Rod of Discord, and in many of those playthroughs, I'm glad to have it. This is one of the most useful items in Terraria, period. It is worth it. Mini Shark plus Mega Shark. These weapons are very similar, but their value is actually very different, so let's get started by talking about the Mini Shark. The Mini Shark can be purchased from the arms dealer for around 35 gold coins, and it fires bullets extremely quickly. With that being said, these bullets barely do any damage, and especially in Master Mode when enemies have crazy armor, it's pretty bad. The Boomstick is the Mini Shark's obvious competitor because it's easier to obtain, and on top of that, it's a lot easier to get good damage out of this thing. With the existence of the Boomstick and other great ranged weapons in the early game of Terraria, I would say the Mini Shark in most cases is not worth it. The Mega Shark, on the other hand, is a different story. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Mega Shark is definitely not amazing, but it's also not bad. Especially if you utilize crystal or chlorophyte bullets, you can get insane value out of the Mega Shark in late hard mode. It's not terrible when it comes to crowd control, and it's not terrible when it comes to boss fights. The Mega Shark isn't particularly great or bad at anything, and it's pretty easy to obtain, which I would say makes it worth it. Master Ninja Gear. Master Ninja Gear is a late game accessory in Terraria that is a combination of the Tiger Climbing Gear, the Tabby, and the Black Belt, which are all relatively rare items. Master Ninja Gear is basically like the Shield of Cthulhu, but better. It allows you to dash left or right, and possibly even avoid attacks between dashes. Boss fights are a whole lot easier with accessories like the Master Ninja Gear. The dash is extremely satisfying, and I would say for the average player, an accessory like this is the easiest way to make bosses like Duke Fishron, the Empress of Light, or even the Moon Lord a whole lot easier. While the crafting components are also kind of rare for the Master Ninja Gear, I would say that it will still take you less time to get this accessory than most that we've talked about in this video. The Master Ninja Gear is worth it. And finally, the Bundle of Horseshoe Balloons. The Bundle of Horseshoe Balloons is crafted by using a Lucky Horseshoe, a Sandstorm in a balloon, a Blizzard in a balloon, and a Cloud in a balloon. In terms of pure function, this is the best accessory in pre-hard mode Terraria, hands down. It strongly increases your vertical mobility while also giving you 3 separate double jumps and negating all fall damage. Some players would actually argue that the Bundle of Horseshoe Balloons is better than early hard mode wings. So you might be asking why somebody would call this item overrated, but it actually makes a lot of sense. While the Bundle of Horseshoe Balloons is functionally the most useful pre-hard mode item, it's also the most frustrating to obtain by far. The crafting components for this item are completely RNG based. Literally every single thing you need to craft this item is obtained through a chest or fishing. I am not exaggerating when I say that in most of my playthroughs, it takes me less time to obtain the Zenith than it takes me to get the Bundle of Horseshoe Balloons. Mechanically, this item is great, but I would say that there are other items in Terraria, especially in hard mode, which are a lot better for the time you can put into obtaining them. I really like the Bundle of Horseshoe Balloons, but in most playthroughs, it is absolutely not worth it. And there you go. That's what you guys think are Terraria's most overrated accessories, and if I think they're actually worth using or not. If you want to talk about Terraria or give me more video ideas, make sure to join the Discord server, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.